It's the remarkable feature many of us know about, but we never really get to use or not really understand. And that has been the case for me until recently. And I'm talking about layers. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you what layers are, how I use layers in my planner, how to actually use them on the reMarkable, other ideas for possible uses of layers, and deciding whether layers are for you or not. So if we want to understand layers, let's think of it using the table metaphor. So the table is your template. That's the background. You can make it hidden, but you cannot remove it. And then you have what we can think about as a tracing paper. That's a layer. And you can write on it, you can draw on it, and it stays there. And there are different things that you can do. You can add, so for example, you can add another sheet of tracing paper on top of what you already have. You can also shuffle the order of the tracing papers. You can hide, and you can also merge layers. You can put two layers into one. So layers are actually common in design and editing software, so it helps artists organize their work. So when it's time to edit, they can correct mistakes on a specific layer without ruining their underlying work. And in my case, I don't have sketches to apply these principles, but I found a use for my planner that I find really handy. And what I do is I track and plan different things on the same weekly layout without switching pages or using a different planner. So I use one layer for each of these three things: work planner, meal tracker, and one line a day. So the benefits of this is that you can focus on one specific thing by making the rest of the layers invisible. For example, if I only want to show my work planner, I can focus on that. Two, you have more space than if you were to try to fit everything into a page. So I know that I can also do one line a day journaling here, but probably it will be too crowded. Now let's see what things we can do with layers. So the first thing we're going to do is to add a layer. So you go to your toolbar here, and then find this icon and then choose new layer. So any new layer goes on the very top. So as you see, it's labeled now layer 4. You can also move layers around using the arrow up or down. So if I want to put layer 4 closer to the background, then I can just tap on this arrow down, or if I want to move it up. And you can also merge layers. So this is the icon for that. So if I want layer 4 to be part of one line a day, then I just tap on this icon. They're now merged into one layer. So you may want to merge it with another layer that's not the one right below it. Then you have to shuffle it first and move it closer to that right above it so that you can merge it like so. You can also delete layers. So after making a layer, you can just choose the bin icon here, and then you can remove it. And you can also hide layers. So you have the eye icon here. So if it's showing like this, that means it's hidden. You can just tap on it, and then it will make it visible. Obviously, all of your visible layers will show. It's a bit of a mess, so I just keep it to one active layer plus the background, obviously. Now, remember that layers can be either hidden or visible, and active or inactive. And a good way to know the difference is that hidden or visible, it's quite easy because you just ask yourself whether you see it or not. But active or inactive is a bit trickier. Active layers are the ones that you can interact with. And actually, you can just have one active layer at a time. So even if this one is invisible or hidden, it's actually the one I'm interacting with right now. So if I do anything on the page, I'm actually writing on that layer. And you see what it does? What it did was to make it visible automatically, because you cannot write on an invisible or hidden layer. Just make sure that you actually go to the layer that you want to interact with. So now I can make sure that I'm on my work planner and I'm writing there. Also, what's good is that if you make a mistake or change your mind during one of these steps, you can always undo. Probably I accidentally merged the two layers, so now I only have 3 instead of 4. I didn't mean to do that. And now the layer is back. Just remember to not exit the document. So after that, you can't really use the undo button anymore. In this case, I'll try to exit, go back. The undo button is grayed out, so I can't do anything anymore. So just make sure that you do that before you close the document. The other thing I want to say is that you can actually change the name of the layers for easy reference. So in my case, for example, work plans, if I want to change that to, for example, work planner, I just need to long press on the name and then you can type like so and then hit enter. And that's it. You can also use your finger. So if you long press, it's going to do the same thing. But just don't forget to tap the enter button. So this is how I use it on my planner. I have a capture system here of tasks. And then when I'm ready to decide on what to tackle that day, I transfer it over here and I have 3 categories. So depending on the day, I might want to start with quick wins for that quick dopamine hit and just to build momentum, and then hard dreaded tasks when I have more energy, or at least it gives me that space to think about why I actually dreading those tasks. So now I'm going to show you the second layer, which is my meal tracker. So I divided it up into 3, my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I just log whatever I ate that day, and then I use this space for anything extra like snacking or drinks that's not part of my regular meals. The third thing I do is to do 1 line a day journaling. So again, I toggle it off. I make my 1 line a day visible and make sure that I make that an active layer. So I tap on it as well. So this is just 1 line a day kind of easy journaling where I put a highlight of a day and I use some stickers and some calligraphy. I use these different writing tools, make it colorful and nice. So it's a nice way to pay more attention to my day and how I feel. So now, what can we use layers for? So I've shown you how I use it. So maybe you have specific tasks for family or appointments, and then you also have your work appointments. So you can have those in 2 different spaces without leaving the page. You can also have a different layer for each client. So for example, client A, client B. You can also use this to test yourself by putting your answers to questions in a separate layer. For example, you have a workbook and you can add a new layer for every time you attempt to answer the questions, and then you can hide or make it visible to test yourself. So you can also use this to prepare PowerPoint presentations. So in my case, I used my reMarkable move, added a layer for my notes, and then I toggled it on and off as I practiced. So there's some disadvantages. So the layers you set up are only applicable to that page. So for instance, this weekly spread, I already set up all the layers. But if I go to the next week, you see, the layers are not like what they look like in the other ones. So I have to set them up again. And maybe for you, this is not ideal. Maybe you don't want to do this every time. And in that case, layers may not be a good solution for you in this use case. But for me, I enjoy setting up my weekly spread. So I think I'm going to be using that and fitting it in my workflow. Another challenge is to remember to use layers. And I know that for people who are not used to this, it's so easy to forget. And you have that extra step of going here and then toggling on and off. So it takes some time and getting used to. So yeah, I think that's all for layers. I hope this is helpful, and feel free to drop a comment if you have a question or you want to share about how you use layers in your workflow. I'm really interested in how reMarkable users use this very interesting feature, and I think it's underrated. Thank you so much, and see you in the next video. Bye!